minutes. Let's just bring ourselves into the moment. So wherever you are, just let yourself relax. Let your eyes close. Spend a few moments settling in. See if you can let go of any thoughts that you've carried in with you, any expectations, any plans, and let go of any memories of the day or the week, and really connect with sitting. It's so beneficial to reconnect with our bodies, and it's not something we do very often. So spend a few moments just noticing what it feels like to sit. Notice maybe the temperature of the room or any sensations in the body, any throbbing, any tingling. Maybe get a sense of your body breathing. The breath just flows naturally. You don't have to do anything about it. Let yourself relax into the breath if that's comfortable for you. It's not comfortable for everyone, so if it's not, no need to do that. Let your body relax into the present. Soften around your eyes, soften around your jaw. Relaxing your shoulders, your arms, your hands. Relax your belly, your hips, your legs, your feet. There's nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. Let yourself settle into the present. This awareness of your breath and your body. If your mind does wander, gently bring it back to this breath and body awareness. So, hi again, everyone. It's good to see you. It's good to be with you. And I want to thank Menla for the invitation to be with you today. I was first invited to teach here a couple of months ago, and that's when we came up with the topics. And, I think letting in the good is always beneficial. It's always beneficial, but I think now more than ever, it's really important to pay attention to joy, pay attention to the good, pay attention to that which is lovely and sweet, because there's so much other stuff going on. You all know that. So I wanted to just help or talk about a way to really cultivate the good or cultivate the beneficial. We've got the pandemic that's been going on for 5 months, maybe more. I do a morning meditation group every day, and I started doing it on March 18th when we just started, sheltering in place and staying at home. And tomorrow, it was a Wednesday, and tomorrow is our 24th week. So that's a long time to be in this place. And even though things have kind of normalized, it's still incredibly difficult. I mean, the new normal, there's no such thing as normal. Things change all the time, but we've moved into this new way of being, but it's very wearing. It's incredibly wearing. And I found myself crying over really things that I would not normally cry over. Like, I dropped some ice off at the animal shelter last week because they said dogs like to chew on ice, and if you're in the market and can bring a bag over, and I dropped it over, and somebody came out and said thank you, and I started crying. So our emotions are really, really, really close to the surface, and they can seem really overwhelming at times. And then add on top of that, the shootings and the violence and the unrest and all the chaos that is the world we're in right now, the world we're moving through. Some of us are impacted to a greater or lesser degree, but we're all impacted whether we realize it or not. It's, as I said, it's incredibly wearing. And it's so easy to get lost in the negativity. It's so easy to get lost in streams of thought that don't serve, that are kind of unhealthy or stressful. And I'm sure many of you have heard the word that I'm waiting for it to be added to the dictionary. It's called doom scrolling, where you sit on social media and you just kind of like scroll through, and it just, one story is worse than the next story is worse than the next story, and it's really, again, wearing. And that's actually not a really good place to hang out, but we kind of get sucked into it. There's an addiction of social media. That's a whole other story. Anyway, so that said, it's really important to let in the good, to really make space for what's wise, what's beneficial, what's nourishing and nurturing. And this is something that was taught by the Buddha 2,600 years ago in his teachings. I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with Buddhist teachings, but 2,600 years ago, he talked about the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path is his way of moving towards liberation, enlightenment, awakening. It's a path of freedom and away from suffering, a path away from stress and discontent, dissatisfaction. And so he talked about wise effort, and in conjunction with wise view and wise intention. And wise effort is this way to, or is this the Buddha's invitation to notice when there are thoughts that are not beneficial and abandon them, prevent them, and if they show up or if they move in, abandon them, and to learn to arouse those thoughts which are beneficial and to maintain them. So it's not that we walk away from things that are unpleasant, but we want to be with them in a way that's healthy, that's not doom scrolling of the mind, so to speak. And Rick Hansen, who is a evolutionary neuropsychologist, has written a book. He wrote it a few years ago, and it's called Buddha's Brain. It's an excellent book. I recommend it highly, but he talks about this need to, he calls it take in the good. And it's a way to really help your mind move in a direction that makes space for the joy that's present, for the sweetness that's present, and to not become so fixated on the pain and the difficulties that are present. And how to let go of the stories of the mind. It's this logical progression of seeing clearly and setting an intention and making the effort to do it, to move out of that what can be sometimes a dark place. And so it's not just this letting in the good is not just letting go of the stories that the mind creates around today's fears, because, you know, there are some really difficult things happening to people. There's so many people have been laid off. There's this fear of financial insecurity, and there's these habits of mind, or there's the fear of the future because it's a big unknown right now. And we can get into this state of mind, what if, 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 what if. And we have a soundtrack to our mind that we're all pretty familiar with, whether we're sure of it or aware of it or not. There are stories we tell ourselves, these memories, these habits of mind that we get into. It's almost predictable. If your mind starts going down this pathway, you know where you're going to end up. It's this deep conditioning that we have. And the Buddha said we are all conditioned beings. We are all conditioned beings. We are conditioned by our families, we're conditioned by our culture, we're conditioned by advertisers, we're conditioned by what people said to us, what people say to us today, but we're conditioned beings. And so these stories are just kind of there, whether we're aware of them or not. And neuroscience has helped us understand how this stuff works. And they talk about, many of you probably know these terms, explicit memory and implicit memory. And explicit memory are those memories that you can just connect to almost immediately, like where you bought your clothes, or where you went to school, or what you did last summer. They're easily accessible. And then there are those memories that are called implicit memories. And Rick Hansen says those establish the interior landscape of your mind. Those implicit memories include our expectations, our emotional tendencies, and our general outlook on life. And it's really dependent on our conditioning, on those messages we received growing up. Sometimes we're still receiving them. And these messages are sometimes beneficial and sometimes not beneficial. The problem is that our minds also have a negativity bias, this tendency to focus on the negative or less positive aspects, and focus on the negative, like what's going to happen or what if. And it goes back to those days when we were like sitting on a rock and looking over there and seeing a shadow and going, is that prey or predator? And needing to really be aware of danger when it's all around. But we've moved beyond that. We don't have to have that negativity bias. And so we disproportionately favor that negativity. It can be helpful in some ways if we have a sense of remorse over something we've done, if we've hurt somebody or done something that's not wise or skillful. Then we can have some remorse over it in a healthy way. But when we get lost in those stories and that deep conditioning, we have these deep embedded memories, and we tend to overlook the positive because we've created these scenarios. And we live in a world of, in my own case, so, I'll give you an example. I grew up in a family where it was not okay to say anything that was wrong or that wouldn't be appreciated by the person I was talking to, whether my siblings or my mom. It was sometimes dangerous to do something that they didn't like. So I learned to keep my mouth shut. And I kept my mouth shut for a very long time, way decades and decades and decades. And I didn't realize what that was some really deep conditioning. All I knew is that it was incredibly difficult to tell somebody something that I was afraid they might not want to hear. What if they got angry? I don't know where that came from, but that was a big one for me. What if they got angry? Well, when I looked into it, I saw it's like some old deep conditioning, but it kept me in this place of people pleasing and perfectionism, and it had a really detrimental impact on how I moved through the world, especially when there were people doing things that they needed to be told. I'm sorry, this is not okay. I had no clue how to do that. I'm also have a real core belief that I'm always on the outside looking in, that, and so if I find out about a party that I wasn't invited to, it triggers that old thinking of like, oh, I have no friends, nobody likes me, wah, wah, wah. And it's this storyline that goes off. I know that's not true, so I can and let go of that thought that doesn't serve any purpose, and go, oh, that's not true. That's just that old story. That's that deep conditioning. But I didn't get there overnight. It took this effort. It took this this paying attention, this mindfulness practice to see clearly what was going on, to really be willing to put down those old thoughts, to put down those old ideas and say, no, this is okay. This is okay. So the good news is that there is, as I said, a way out of this. And as I said, the Buddha talks about recognizing when these unwholesome thoughts are there, when these thoughts that aren't beneficial are there, these old storylines, you're not good enough, you never belong, you're stupid, blah, 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 whatever you say. If I called myself by my last name, I was in trouble. I was in trouble. So recognizing those stories and letting them go, and recognizing the beneficial and the skillful and the wholesome and the nurturing, and stay with those. The balanced ones, those are the ones that are not, so tilted toward the negative. And Rick, in his book, lays out a way to do this that actually has a beneficial impact on the brain. And he talks about recognizing the beneficial. So turn a fact into an experience. So what I mean by that, if somebody compliments you and says, oh, you did a good job on that, actually receive that, hear it, and experience it. What does it feel like in your body? People would tell me at work years ago, they'd say, you did a really good job. And my automatic response was, if I can do it, anybody can do it. So it was really dismissive because I thought I wasn't good enough. There was this sense of inadequacy that was deeply embedded. That was an implicit memory. It was a conditioning from an implicit memory. And every time someone would say something to me, that's a nice blouse, I'd say, this old thing. And I had to learn to say thank you. And I had to learn to replace that automatic dismissiveness with believe the words that are coming out of their mouths. What does it feel like when someone says you do a good job? Experience it. This connection with the physical experience is so important. Even if it's weird and awkward at first, going, oh, thank you. The body may feel really tense and do it anyway. Do it anyway. It's really important to do it anyway, and spend some time with it. And then he said, savor the experience. Spend 5 or 10 seconds with it. What? That's not too much to ask. That's just a few. He says, when you spend time with the body sensations, oh, thank you. What does it feel like to be told that I did a good job, or that I was generous, or that I helped, or that I was kind, or whatever it is? What does that feel like? Let in the good. Let it in. No, those body sensations coupled with that really help fire these neurons. If somebody hugs you, experience the hug. And I think what we're hearing now, that so many people are in isolation and are alone and don't have people to connect with in this way, there's a real experience of lack. So the converse is true. When you can hug someone, there's this shot of dopamine, which is really, really important to help. And then if you can, bring up some other memories, of when other times people have said whatever it is. And that also supports this bonding, this connection, which is so important. When we're lost in those stories in our head, it's so isolating. It's so isolating. What we've done is we've built up armor, we've built up walls to protect ourselves. And that doesn't serve any purpose except to put ourselves behind a wall. And the last thing he says is absorb the emotion. Let it sink in. What does it feel like? This is why softening is so important, relaxing the body. I used to do something years ago because I'm really left brain. So I used to imagine massaging the right side of my brain. It's just like, oh, get the juices flowing in there. It's a very similar kind of thing. Absorb it. There's a really strong mind-body connection that we have cut off. And the Buddha talks about it in his teachings as well, this body awareness, really paying attention to the body, the sensations of the body, feeling it, knowing it, connecting with it. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score, where the author talks about how trauma is trapped in the body. Absolutely. And so this is a way to kind of connect with that and heal from that. And in healing, you can utilize this practice in healing from those old unpleasant experiences that we had by this building of connection and sharing with others is a helping of a healing, helps to heal. I talked to a girlfriend yesterday, and she told me a story. We've been friends for over 40 years. We were roommates in college. And she told me a story that I never heard. When she was about 17 or 8, she had just found a little kitten, maybe a couple of days old, and she tried to take care of it and bottle feed it up every 2 hours during the night, and it just didn't survive. It was just too sick. And she was devastated, way out of whack to what would make sense. Well, there's the pandemic, which, as I mentioned, and what we're experiencing right now in the world, which has our emotions this close from the surface. And so we feel things so much more intensely right now. But it seemed to be even bigger than that. And she told me a story that when she was about 17, 18, she was driving and a dog ran out in front of her car and she ran it over. And the owner had just let the dog off the leash and the dog bolted. So the owner knew it was his fault and he took accountability for it, responsibility. But he was devastated and she was devastated. And when she got home, she told her mom, and her mom said, "You need to be better at that. If you don't be better at that, you're going to run over some child and you're going to kill somebody." And she just lit into her. So my girlfriend had this really traumatic experience. So that was an implicit memory, which she had forgotten for decades. And it just came up to her this week that, oh my God, that was some deep, deep conditioning. Not good enough. never doing it right. That's a story that impacted her. So to recognize that and go, no, that's not true. And to share your experience with someone who can commiserate, that also has a beneficial impact on the brain. In fact, there's a Brene Brown. Some of you know who Brene Brown is. She's a researcher and a shame researcher and just a really brilliant woman who's written many books. But she had a podcast for a few months, starting in March into the summer. Really excellent. I recommend it highly if you have a chance. And one of them, she spoke with Tarana Burke, who founded Me Too many years ago. And Tarana Burke was talking about these women these young girls or these teens that she was working with, and realizing that so many of them had been abused, sexually abused. And she would talk to them and they would share their stories with her. And she said, I have not experienced what you have experienced as the exact experience. However, I have felt attacked and I have felt shame and I have felt grief and I have felt all the emotions. And so there's an identification with emotions. So when we can connect with each other in this really important way, there's a healing and the brain rewires itself. So sharing is really important. Letting down those barriers is really important. So instead of doubling down on these stories, these old neural pathways, we replace them with someone who can be there for us, saying, yeah, me too. Or, oh, honey, I'm so sorry. That's how we move into this place of healing and changing this and allow ourselves to receive the good, to let in the good. And so we're not so out of whack with this negativity bias. It's really important that we start rebalancing in this way. And you know, the Buddhist teaching again is this path, this middle path, this path of equanimity, of balance, of meeting whatever comes appropriately. You know, we don't run away from difficult emotions. That's a really important thing to mention, that it's not about running away and it's not about saying, oh, this is too scary, so I'm just going to stuff it down. That's not what this is about. It's about making space for it in the present without getting lost in that story. I feel this way, therefore I'm a loser. It's because this. It's like, no, we just treat ourselves tenderly. We make space for it. It's not easy to do. It takes effort. It takes the willingness to drop the story, but that's where this mindfulness practice is so important, this willingness to see clearly, oh, this is a story, and set an intention to not go down that path again. And then make the effort, oh, this is that tired old story. If I'm calling myself stupid, let it go. If I'm judging, let it go. It's not saying you're not accountable. It's not saying you don't have remorse or take accountability for things you've done or responsibility or make things right. But you don't just pound it in and pound it in and pound it in. The same thing with the future tripping. It's like, what if? It's like, that doesn't serve. Can you let go of that? That just serves to rile up your innards, you know? To increase the stress level. Are you willing to let go of that story and come back to greeting what's here? Oh, there's fear here. There's some serious fear. And the mind's trying to manage the fear so it goes away. And it's not about managing the emotions until they go away. It's about tending to them while they're here. Nothing lasts forever, but can you tend to what's right here? That's the important thing. That's the really important thing. That's how you let in the good. It's making space for what's here, making space for joy. There is joy right now. And Rick Hansen talks about that as well. When you are in a place that is joyful, don't deny it. I mean, right now, there's a lot of, how can I be happy? How can I be joyful when there's so much horror? There's so much really scary stuff happening. You can be joyful because joy is present. You can let the good in because it's right here. So if you smell a flower that's really delightful, let that soak in. Give that 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 seconds. What's that like? Again, it's that connection with the beneficial, with the positive. I am very joyful. You see here a bowl of cherries. Cherry season is ending. And I thought I had my last 4 cherries in this bowl on Saturday. And I went to the supermarket. Lo and behold, this one supermarket that I don't often go to had some cherries. So I still have cherries. So I savor these cherries. This is my favorite fruit in the world. They bring me joy. I'm not denying the reality of the joy that's here, because I'm not basing my whole life on it. It's like, this will pass. And maybe I'll see something online or hear something that will bring up a lot of anger. I don't say, oh, I'm not supposed to feel angry. I go, that's sometimes an implicit memory. We're not supposed to. I will say, what is here? Hello, anger. And greet it and make space for it. So we let in. So holding, letting in the good and making the effort to maintain the wise and skillful and the beneficial thoughts is not about getting rid of what's present. It's about making space for what's present, letting in the good to balance out the negativity. And so you're in this balance, this equanimity of, if there's pain, if there's suffering, bring compassion to it. If there's something pleasant, experience the joy. Be with what is right this minute. So be where what you are. Be with what's right here, right now. So trying to think if there's any last things I want to say around this. No, this practice for me, I can speak from my experience. It's changed how I move through the world. I no longer call myself stupid. There's another teaching around wise speech where you're not supposed to tell lies. You're not supposed to be harsh with your speech. You're not supposed to be sarcastic. You're not supposed to be a lot of these things. So I used to have that running commentary in my head. It's like having that person walking next to you going, judging everything you do. I don't have that anymore. Most of the time. Occasionally it shows up and occasionally I get sucked into it. But for the most part, there's that old, really debilitating voice is gone because I've been willing to make the effort and replace it with, oh, I used to say when I was really tired, I used to say, I'm so stupid because I can't understand anything because I'm so stupid because I didn't get any sleep. And somebody had to tell me, you can't say that anymore. You just say, oh, I didn't have any sleep, so I'm really tired. See the shift, let in the good, let in the beneficial. Yeah, I can go on and on and on, but I want to leave some space for us to sit so you can actually maybe have your own experience with that. I'll do some guided meditation. And I also want to know, before we move into a guided meditation, if this makes sense, if there's any questions, anything that anyone would like to ask before we move into a little meditation practice, and then another Q&A after that. Any questions? I think you can go to the Q&A box. Going once, going twice. Okay, so I don't see any. So what I'm going to do then is move us into a meditation, because mindfulness practice is really a foundation for this freedom, for this liberation that you get by recognizing your mental experience and letting go of the stuff that doesn't serve, letting go of those old stories and making room for what does serve, for what's actually present, and tending to what's actually here. So without further ado, and then again, as I said, we'll have room for Q&A on the other side of this in case something comes up while you're sitting that you want to ask about. So again, settle in, letting your eyes close. Letting yourself relax into the present. And spending a few moments connecting with the body, getting a sense of what it feels like to sit, feeling where your butt connects with the chair, the cushion, the sofa, feeling the pressure. Maybe you feel your hands resting on your lap or your legs. Maybe you get a sense of other sensations in the body, maybe an ache, a tingle, humming sound. Maybe you're aware of the temperature, the coolness, the warmth. There's no wrong answer. There's simply tending to what's right here, making space for whatever shows up. Maybe you notice the movement of the breath through the body, the fall and rise of the chest, the movement of the rib cage, even the rise and fall of the shoulders. And you may notice that your mind has wandered. It may have wandered to the future. It may have wandered to the past. Notice if there's a particular story that's attached to that wandering, something familiar. Perhaps there's a plan that the mind keeps moving to a particular situation. Same with the past. Perhaps you go back to a particular memory. Maybe it was pleasant, maybe it was unpleasant. And see if you can bring yourself back to the present if you get lost in the thinking mind. Noticing where you were lost and gently coming back. Oftentimes, if there's an uncomfortable or unpleasant memory or thought about the future, there's an associated emotion that's present in the body. And the invitation is to connect with that. Sometimes you can feel agitation in your chest or your belly. Sometimes there's a tightening of the jaw. Maybe the shoulders tense up. Notice that and tend to that. Notice any judgment, criticism that might be present. Remembering that there is no way to do this wrong. You cannot make a mistake during this practice. Even if the mind tells you you are doing it wrong. What is here right now? It may be pleasant. If it's pleasant, can you sit with that? Perhaps there's joy here, happiness. Where do you feel that? Maybe there's sadness present. Can you hold that? This is a practice that brings us to balance, brings us to equanimity. A way of being intimate with our deepest experience. A way of being compassionate to ourselves and gentle. It's about letting in the good. Sometimes when we tend to these unpleasant emotions such as sadness or grief, when we tend to those for the first time, it's a relief. It's a wise quality. It's to tend to what we try to push away. Maybe you can even let go of your definition of what good should look like. And come into a harmony with what is. This is a practice of being in harmony with what is, with the present. You can search the world over, north and south and east and west, and not find anyone more worthy of love, of kindness and compassion than you. Let that in. There is no one more worthy of love, of kindness, of compassion than you. No one more worthy of love, of kindness, compassion than you. Thank you, everyone. So again, we have a few minutes if there's any questions or comments or thoughts. I'm also open to rebuttals. Take them all.
If we just give it a minute, we're also simulcasting on YouTube, and we'll see if there's any questions from our devoted YouTube crowd.
Of
Hello,
course.
Sanjay and Nova and all our regulars. Nice to see you.
Absolutely.
For those of you who don't know, we have a very active YouTube channel where many of our free replays are provided to the community. And also there's over 300 hours of archived video there. So if you're looking to explore any of the topics covered here or learn about some of the presenters we offer at Menla Mountain Retreat and at Tibet House, please visit YouTube. We can be found under Tibet House US Menla Online. No questions. It's all you, Mary.
No worries. I'm used to that. It's an interesting thing. So what I would invite you all to reflect on as you move away from today is how do you cultivate the beneficial, or how do you get in your own way? What stories do you tell yourself? What traps do you fall into? And how do you take care of yourself? Or how would you like to? I think it's really important. You know, especially right now, there was, at least at the beginning of the shutdown, this sense of, oh, I'm at home, I can be so productive, and should do this, should do that, should do this. I think you want to see if you can let go of should. Don't should all over yourself. I love that phrase. So where are you shoulding on you? And let go of that, and investigate where you're uncomfortable and how you can shift, how you can really spend some time smelling the flowers. We're going to be moving into fall soon. And so there's going to be some exquisite colors in some parts of the country. There's going to be all that fall brings. If you're a fan of pumpkin spice, anything, that season is coming. So, you know, don't miss out on the joy that's there. James Barris is a teacher at Spirit Rock Meditation Center in Northern California, and he teaches a class on awakening joy, which I've had the good fortune to be trained with him in. And he says, don't miss the joy. It's everywhere. Even with what's going on, there's joy. Don't deny what's actually present. It's really important to counteract the difficulties that we're all going through. So thank you. And so investigate that for yourself. And I do want to put in a plug for me. I'm doing I'm doing a workshop on September 15th with Menla Online, and that's on living with an undefended heart, which really gets into seeing how this conditioning we armor ourselves through this conditioning, and how to actually break down those walls and become much more intimate with our own experience. It's quite a liberating path and journey, and it's been the lens through which I view everything these days. And one more plug, we sit at 7 a.m. Pacific time, 7 days a week. So if you're looking for a meditation group, just come join us 7 a.m. So thank you. Oh, September 12th, sorry, I thought it was the 15th. I can't read calendars sometimes. But thanks for that. Anyway, that's all I have. I don't know if you have any other announcements for Menla.
Yeah, I'll come back on here. Thank you, Mary.
Okay.
That was
Wonderful.
two wonderful meditations. So I always appreciate those. It's a nice way to relax and settle in and unwind. So thank you very much. Thank you for those wonderful teachings as well. I'm very guilty of shoulding all over. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be posting some links into the chat, both to connect with Mary through email, through her website, and also for Menla and for Tibet House. You can look at upcoming events and just stay connected with us as an online community. Just posted in the chat link to register for Mary's next event. On our calendar, it says September 12th, but I'm notorious for misreading as well. So we'll double check that.
So am I. Whatever that Saturday is.
Yes. So I believe it will be the 12th, 11 a.m. Eastern time. And like Mary said, just a wonderful opportunity to hear Mary's teachings again. So we're very much looking forward to that and honored to have you here. I'll go ahead and post those links to stay connected with our online communities in the chat here. So you can connect with Tibet House, Menla, and Mary there. And I will also put in Mary's email. So if you did have any questions, you can connect with her, or if you just wanted to say hello. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. You are the entire reason that we are here, and I can only speak for myself, but I love being able to listen to these teachers and to have this community here where we're all connecting with working on letting in the good, which is very needed and very touching right now. And I love to share this space with the teacher, everybody working with me here at Menla, and especially the participants. You are the entire reason that we are here and able to continue doing what we're doing. So in order to continue to offer these online courses, we hope that you are able to attend in the future. We'll also be posting a donation link in the chat if you feel you can give anything. It's much appreciated, and it does help us continue these online courses, and it helps Menla in this trying time, so that hopefully in the very near future we'll be able to do live retreats again as well. So we look forward to seeing everybody. Yeah, cross all your fingers, all your toes. We look forward to seeing everybody again very soon. So thank you. And Mary, if you had any last closing comments, I'll just keep my eye on the chat here.
I'm really grateful to you for having me. I know a question came in just a minute ago, which we don't unfortunately have time to answer. If you want to shoot me an email, I'd be happy to connect that way. Absolutely. So thank you again, and blessings to all of you, and take care. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll leave the room open for a few minutes so you can look through the chat and get any of the links that you would like. We'll type in the chat when we are about to close the room. And thank you all for coming, and we invite you to attend our next event. Thank you all.
And we'd like to thank everybody for tuning in, and especially to the people that we simulcasted to on YouTube. Thank you for your online participation, and we'll see you this Saturday night as Saturday Night Live on YouTube returns. This week we have a special offering from the Hopi community, so stay tuned and hope to see you Saturday night. This is Justin Stone Diaz, and we'll see you next time. Hey Wyatt, it's just us chickens now. Thanks for a great night. That was really smooth. I appreciate it. But I believe the only the host can turn off the live stream. So if you can just hit that button before you leave the meeting, that'd be awesome. I'm gonna go silent and then just close the room whenever you're ready. Just us.